Number one in the WNBA draft was Azzi Fudd. Now, we weren't unfortunately able to talk to Azzi. She had a very strict schedule and she was only going to certain places on her media tour. Obviously, being the number one pick, there are a lot of people who wanted to speak to Azzi, but we were actually able to talk to the Dallas Wings CEO. And the first question I wanted to ask him, and I'm so glad that I was able to ask him, I wanted to ask him, like, how long have you known that you were going to draft Azzi?
That's Azzi Fudd going number one to the Dallas Wings. And if you've been paying attention to how Dallas operates, this pick was never in doubt. But here's what most people missed. The Wings CEO just admitted they knew for weeks. While mock drafts had Abby going first, then Olivia Miles, Dallas had already made their decision. So what did they see that everyone else was debating?
I was like, if we see how the Dallas Wings work, how they navigate, it just makes so much sense for Azzi to go to Dallas. Like, I actually never had a doubt in my mind that she wouldn't be going to Dallas. And when I asked the Dallas Wings CEO, Greg Bibb, about it, he said that same thing. He's like, we've known for a while. We've known for a while that we were going to draft Azzi. We think that she fits perfect with us. And also, they just loved her three-point shooting ability, and they said they really struggled with that.
Three-point shooting. That's the answer. The Wings struggled from beyond the arc all last season, and Azzi fixes that immediately. But there's something bigger happening here. Dallas drafted Paige Bueckers last year, and now they're pairing her with Azzi. That's not just roster building, that's championship architecture. Greg Bibb, the Wings CEO, didn't explicitly say they're contending this year, but when you add Alana Smith in free agency and draft Azzi to play alongside Paige, you're not building for 3 years from now.
To the Minnesota Lynx. Now, I did also get to chat with Olivia Miles. She just has like a really cool personality. She is super chill, but then also a killer on the court. Her style was really fun. And so we had a really great chat as well. And this makes sense to me. I feel like the Minnesota Lynx, like, we still don't know what they're doing in free agency. So I honestly, like, if Olivia went second, if Awa went second, if Lauren Betts went second, I think all of them would fit with the Minnesota Lynx. And obviously her playing alongside Fee. And that's what Olivia also mentioned. She was like, I'm able to see the floor. Like, I'm
Olivia Miles to Minnesota at number 2. And here's where the draft gets interesting. Rachel mentioned she could see Abby going second, Lauren Betts going second, or Olivia going second, and all of them would fit. That tells you something about Minnesota's roster situation. They still haven't finalized their free agency moves, which means they took best player available. Olivia's passing ability, her basketball IQ, playing alongside Napheesa Collier creates an entirely different dynamic for the Lynx. Watch Olivia's confidence in that interview. She's comparing herself to Magic Johnson and Steve Nash. That's not arrogance, that's a player who knows exactly what she brings to the WNBA level. Her court vision translates immediately to the professional game, and Minnesota desperately needs someone who can orchestrate their offense.
Actually surprised me in the best way with Awa. So Awa going to the Seattle Storm, obviously she's going to be paired up with Dominique Malonga. So we have now the Twin Towers in Seattle. This is going to be very fun. Now, do I think that the Seattle Storm is going to be a winning organization this season? No, I don't think so. But they have two incredible talents in Awa and in Dominique Malonga, and that's going to be really cool to see, and it's going to be very cool to see them develop. Now, I asked Awa about playing in
Number 3 shocked people. Abby to Seattle. Twin Towers with Dominique Malonga. Now, Rachel's honest here, and I appreciate this perspective. Seattle's not winning this season, but they just drafted 2 generational talents in back-to-back years. Abby and Dominique give the Storm something they haven't had in years, legitimate size that can compete physically in the paint. Here's what matters about Abby. She's a winner. Rachel picked up on this immediately in their interview. Abby mentioned playing in the FIBA World Cup qualifiers against Team USA, and her entire demeanor changed. She wants to compete. She wants to win now. That mentality matters when you're building a franchise from the ground up. Seattle's not contending in 2025, but by 2027, with Abby and Dominique developing together, that's a problem for the rest of the league.
I do think that that's a solid pick for number 3. Guys, number 4, Lauren Betts going to the Washington Mystics. I actually predicted this in my mock draft. So in my mock draft, I had Azzi 1, Awa 2, Olivia Miles 3 to the Storm. But this was also before free agency when everything started moving around. But I did have Lauren Betts going to the Mystics. The Mystics are going to be one of my favorite teams. I can't even lie to you. Like, their young core that they are building out, and we'll get to the rest of their picks later on, is going to be so much fun. They have Lucy Olsen there. They have Sonia Citron. They have Kiki Iriafen. They have now Lauren Betts. They also have Georgia Amore coming back from injury. Like, this young core is going to be so much fun. They are going to be so good in a few years. So I'm actually really excited.
Lauren Betts going 4th to Washington. Rachel called this in her mock draft before free agency reshuffled everything. And this is where things get exciting for Mystics fans. Look at their young core. Lauren Betts, Lucy, Sonia Citron, Kiki Iriafen, Angela Dugalich, who they drafted at number 9, and Georgia Amore coming back from injury. That's 6 players under 24 who can all contribute immediately. Washington's not winning the championship this year, but in 2 or 3 seasons, this core is going to be dangerous. The Mystics are doing what smart franchises do. They're building through the draft, they're developing young talent together, and they're creating chemistry that will pay off long-term. Rachel's right about one thing, though. They need to get out of that arena. Entertainment and sports arena is not where you want to showcase this kind of young talent.
5 to the Chicago Sky. And I did get to speak with Gabriela Jaquez. She was so much fun, and I was so excited for her because her draft stock went up, up, up because of the NCAA tournament. I don't think anybody was projecting Gabriela to go even in the top 10 like 3-4 weeks ago. Okay, so the fact that she's going to the Chicago Sky and also seeing what the Chicago Sky are doing with that team, they have done a complete 180. Like, they have changed the whole DNA, the whole makeup of that team. And I think Gabriela Jaquez fits in great. Like, think about Gabriela Jaquez playing alongside Skylar Diggins, also having a veteran leader like Skylar Diggins. I think that's going to be really great for her.
Gabriela Jaquez at 5 to Chicago. Her draft stock went from outside the top 10 to number 5 in about 3 weeks. That's what an NCAA tournament run does for you. But here's what makes this pick fascinating. Chicago completely rebuilt their identity. They moved on from Angel Reese, they brought in Skylar Diggins, they drafted Rikeya Jackson, and now Gabriela. Think about what Chicago's doing strategically. They had a team built around Angel's physicality and rebounding. Now they're building around Skylar's veteran leadership and perimeter play. Gabriela fits that system perfectly. She's playing alongside one of the best point guards in WNBA history. She's learning from someone who's been to multiple All-Star games, and she's getting minutes immediately because Chicago needs her shooting. Chicago Sky fans were devastated when Angel got traded. But if you're looking at this roster objectively, the Sky are building something different. Not better or worse, just different. And Gabriela's energy in that interview, she knows she's in the perfect situation.
I'm rambling now. Let's try to get through this list. So Kiki Rice went number 6. We also got to chat with Kiki Rice. And Kiki Rice going to the Toronto Temple, I think, is really amazing for her. Like, if I was one of the draftees, I would love to get drafted to an expansion franchise, because we saw with the Golden State Valkyries last year, just the new fan base that you get, like the excitement around that city, having a team in a new city. There's like, you love that. Who wouldn't want to play in front of a sold out arena? Like, who wouldn't want to be on the ground floor and help build a franchise? And so any of the women who did get drafted to an expansion team, I personally, I would be so excited. I don't care what team they are, if we won right away or not, like, that would be super exciting. So also got to speak with Kiki Rice. She was super sweet, super, super sweet. We do have some clips of her interview going out today, so make sure that you guys stay tuned for that on social media. The next pick to the Portland Fire was Iana.
Kiki Rice to Toronto at 6. Expansion franchise. And Rachel makes an excellent point here. If you're a draftee, getting selected by an expansion team is actually ideal. Look at what happened with the Golden State Valkyries last year. Sold-out crowds, massive fan engagement, a city that's starving for women's basketball. Toronto's going to be the same situation. Kiki's walking into a franchise where she can be a foundational piece from day one. There's no established hierarchy, no veteran who's been there for 8 years that she has to defer to. It's a blank canvas. The Raptors have one of the most passionate fan bases in professional sports, and now Toronto has a WNBA team. That arena is going to be electric. Kiki seemed genuinely excited in her interview, and she should be. This is a career-defining opportunity.
Bad blood, particularly between Raven and between Caitlin Clark. It's something that happened in a game, but we do know that that was a sore spot for her. So we will just have to see how this pans out. But what Raven Johnson did tell me is the thing that she is hoping to bring to the Indiana Fever and to bring to the next level in the WNBA is her defense, is her tenacity, is her willingness to win. And that's what I heard from a lot of these players. Like, They want to win. They felt what winning feels like in college, and they also want to win at the next level. So it seemed like with Raven, the thing that she was most excited about was going to an organization where they know that they can win, and she wants to contribute with her hard work, her dedication, and her defense. Now, if we look at the Indiana Fever's roster, they are guard heavy. They're also point guard heavy, having Raven Johnson and having Ty Harris into that mix. But we also heard from Coach Stephanie White that she wants to make sure that Kelsey Mitchell can get some breaks, that Caitlin can get some breaks. What I didn't love that Coach Steph White said is, Caitlin can play on and off the ball. I don't want to continue on with that experiment of playing Caitlin Clark off the ball. However, now we have a rotation of Caitlin Clark, Ty Harris, Raven Johnson, Kelsey Mitchell in that mix as well. Now, can Raven Johnson come in and play the 2 a little bit more and also rely on Raven Johnson for, again, with this squad, I don't know how much playing time she gets right away. She will definitely have to earn her stripes into how much playing time she gets for the Fever. I was maybe expecting them to take a big, especially with Medina.
Raven Johnson going 10th to Indiana. This is the pick that broke the internet. And we need to talk about why. Because the context matters. In college, Caitlin Clark and Raven had a moment. Caitlin waved her off during a game. It happened on national television, and the internet did what the internet does. It turned a split-second interaction into a months-long narrative. Raven recently opened up about how much that moment affected her. She talked about almost wanting to quit basketball because of the online harassment that followed. Now they're teammates on the Fever. Rachel handled this perfectly in her interview. She didn't bring up the Caitlin moment because it's draft day. This is one of the most important days of Raven's life. She's worked her entire career to hear her name called on that stage. The last thing she needs is someone asking her to relive a traumatic experience on camera. But here's what we can analyze objectively. Raven told Rachel she wants to bring defense, tenacity, and winning mentality to Indiana. Those are the right answers. The Fever are guard-heavy now. They have Caitlin, Kelsey Mitchell, Ty Harris, and now Raven. That's a lot of ball handlers competing for minutes. Coach Stephanie White mentioned wanting to give Caitlin and Kelsey breaks, which makes sense, but here's my concern. Stephanie also said Caitlin can play on and off the ball. We tried that experiment last season. It didn't work. Caitlin's at her best with the ball in her hands, running the offense, creating for others. Playing her off ball to accommodate more guards isn't the solution. So where does Raven fit? She's going to have to earn her minutes. This isn't college where you're guaranteed a starting spot. Indiana's a winning franchise now. They made the playoffs last year. They have championship expectations. Raven's defense could be valuable, but she's competing with proven WNBA players for court time. The chemistry question is real, not because Raven and Caitlin can't be professional, they absolutely can, but because that moment created a narrative that follows both of them. Every time Raven checks into a game, people are going to watch how Caitlin reacts. Every time they run a pick and roll together, someone's going to overanalyze their body language. That's not fair to either player, but it's the reality they're walking into. Rachel mentioned Raven seemed happy in their interview. She seemed excited to join a winning organization, and maybe that's all that matters. Maybe two professionals can move past a college moment and focus on winning games. The Fever certainly hope so, because they just used a top 10 pick on her. But I'll say this, if I'm Indiana's front office, I'm asking myself why I didn't take Madonna Okot. She went just a few picks later to Atlanta, and the Fever desperately need size. They're guard heavy, they're thin in the front court, and Madonna would have addressed that immediately. Instead, they added another guard to an already crowded backcourt. Time will tell if this works. Raven's talented. She's a winner. She brings defensive intensity that Indiana can use. But this situation is complicated in ways that most draft picks aren't. And that's worth acknowledging. Even on a day when we're supposed to celebrate, the WNBA Draft is supposed to be pure joy. These women have worked their entire lives for this moment. They've sacrificed, they've trained, they've overcome injuries and doubts and critics to reach this stage. And for most of them, draft night is everything they dreamed it would be. Rachel captured that energy perfectly. She kept her interviews light, positive, and celebratory because that's what the moment called for. She talked to Gabriella about her draft stock rising. She talked to Olivia about playing with Fee. She talked to the UCLA players who were jumping up and down, hugging each other, celebrating together. That's the energy that should define draft night. But the Raven Johnson pick reminds us that basketball doesn't exist in a vacuum. These players have histories, they have relationships, they have moments that follow them from college to the pros. And sometimes those moments create complications that no amount of professionalism can completely erase. So what happens next? Raven joins the Fever. She competes for minutes, she works with the coaching staff, she proves she belongs. And hopefully, she and Caitlin build a professional relationship that makes all of this noise irrelevant. But if you're asking me whether this was the right pick for Indiana, I'm not convinced. Not because Raven isn't talented, she absolutely is, but because fit matters. Chemistry matters, and sometimes the best player available isn't the best player for your specific situation. The Fever are built to win now. They have Caitlin Clark, entering her prime. They have Kelsey Mitchell, an all-star. They have championship expectations. Every roster decision matters. And using a top 10 pick on a player whose fit is complicated, whose position is crowded, and whose history with your franchise player creates questions, that's a risk. Maybe it pays off. Maybe Raven becomes the defensive stopper Indiana needs. Maybe she and Caitlin develop chemistry that makes them both better. Maybe a year from now we're talking about how brilliant this pick was, or maybe we're talking about why Indiana didn't address their frontcourt needs when they had the chance. Either way, this draft class is loaded with talent. Azzi Paige in Dallas, Olivia running point in Minnesota, Abby and Dominique building something in Seattle, Lauren Betts anchoring Washington's future, Chicago's complete rebuild, Toronto's expansion energy. These storylines are going to define the next era of WNBA basketball, and that's what makes draft night special. It's not just about who goes where, it's about the stories that start here, the partnerships that form, the rivalries that develop, the championships that get built one pick at a time. So yeah, the Raven Johnson pick is complicated, but it's also compelling. And if there's one thing the WNBA does better than any other league, it's turn complicated storylines into must-watch basketball. This season's going to be fascinating, and it all started with these draft picks. What do you think? Did Indiana make the right call? Should they have taken Medina Okot instead? And can Raven and Caitlin make this work? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and let's see how this all plays out.